Hello there. Welcome once again to another episode of Strange Planets. And if you'd like to get a little bit deeper into Strange Planet, you might want to consider becoming a premium subscriber. It's real easy to do. Just click on the link in the episode notes, strangeplanet.supportingcast.fm, strangeplanet.supportingcast.fm. You gain access to commercial-free listening, special bonus episodes that are produced exclusively for premium subscribers, and you also receive a subscription to my monthly newsletter, Inner Sanctum, strangeplanet.supportingcast.fm. All right, so much negativity in the world, so much bad news. But I'm going to introduce you to a book and a gentleman who helped translate that book. It's called The Optimist, A Path to Personal Success and Happiness. And it allows you to embark upon an historic journey of change. Each day when we wake up, we have two choices. We can be positive, we can think uplifting thoughts, or we can be negative. We can think destructive thoughts. Of course, the choice is ours. And the book tells us how it is within our power to select successful or failed thoughts. We can take control of our destiny one moment, 1 hour, one day at a time. And The Optimist, A Path to Personal Success and Happiness, condenses volumes of self-help information into a subtle, powerful message that can renew your sense of purpose and enhance your pursuit of a positive, happy life. Happiness can be forged by a willed desire to learn and improve. And the gentleman I mentioned who helped translate The Optimist, A Path to Personal Success and Happiness, Josiah Baker, joins us. He was born in the United States, but he spent much of his life overseas, living in 6 countries, including the United States, Norway, Japan, Bolivia, Russia, and Sweden. He spent quite a lot of time in Germany and France, Italy, and Netherlands, but writing and traveling are his lifelong passions. And for 28 years, Josiah has been a professor, having taught in Kentucky, Florida, the Washington, D.C. area, and North Carolina. He's the Nimocks Professor of International Business and Professor of Financial Economics at Methodist University. In his career, he's published 80 articles, newspaper, magazine, academic articles, books, chapters of books, and textbooks. He's also earned many dozens of grants and was a Fulbright Scholar in South America. And again, he helped translate Ulf Sandstrom's The Optimist, A Path to Personal Success and Happiness. Josiah, welcome to Strange Planet. How are you?
Very good, and thank you for having me, Richard.
Let's begin with an introduction to the late Ulf Sandstrom. Tell us more about this man and how you met him.
Well, Ulf was a best-selling author in Sweden and Norway. He wrote a famous book called Translates to You Become What You Think. Ulf was a lawyer, an entrepreneur. He had many, many friends in the Swedish government in all walks of life, and it was his lifelong dream to come to America. I met him actually through his son, who took one of my classes when I was a professor in Florida. And I thought, well, okay, sure, I'll meet up with this guy for an hour or so over coffee. And we ended up talking all day long. And Ulf had a passion for life. And he believed very much that one could control one's destiny, that one could seize every day with the right technique. And he spent many years of his life reading all kinds of books and discussing things with people all over the world. Ulf had traveled the world with the Swedish Navy and working on a cruise line, and all those experiences combined into this fantastic book in Swedish. But he wanted to make it into English, and his written English was not so well, so ended up working together and making several books together. But this book, The Optimist, this is his final statement. This is his magnum opus. It is a daily guide to show you how you can find happiness in your life and how you can overcome adversity and negativity, and because we're the world is full of negativity. There's all kinds of things to worry about, and sometimes we get caught up in that negativity. And so Ulf believed that not only was being positive something to lead to happiness, but he believed productivity and the quality of your work is also tied into happiness. So yeah, it was one of those rare occasions in life where you meet somebody and just hit it right off. And Ulf and I spent countless hours discussing different philosophies and how to get all of his knowledge into one crystallized book. And it took a lot of effort. I'm an economist by trade, but writing a book about the positive thinking with him took me more time than writing several economics books, because there's a certain art to tapping into human nature and finding a way to make human nature to improve one's behavior based off of the nature that we've been given.
Right. I mean, your world was macroeconomics, and you've written books and articles and academic papers on macroeconomics. Suddenly you're writing a book about optimism and how to be happy. Quite a departure. When you met Ulf and started working with him, were you happy?
That's a good question. Coincidentally, and I don't share this very often because it's just something it's been a long time. I met Ulf in 2003. And at that point in my life, I actually was in a pretty low spot for a lot of reasons. I think some of your listeners might appreciate the fact that September 11th, the events of September 11th and the aftermath and how the United States government approached things afterwards, a lot of that really brought me down. And I was still going through that process of trying to digest a new world, or as maybe Bush would call a new world order. I was very upset about certain things, about how quickly things changed, where security became more important than people's rights. The Patriot Act. I know you guys are based in Canada. I assume you probably had similar legislation, but the Patriot Act did take away a lot of our rights. And so, and there were other things going on in my life that made things difficult. And and so coincidentally, yeah, I was at a point where I could have really used his message. And he did not immediately talk about his best-selling book. Actually, that first day that we met, we talked an awful lot about Sweden and Scandinavia. It wasn't until probably later that week, but very soon we did get to it. And he was, as an economist, economics is known as the dismal science. I don't know if you've heard that, but because we're always looking at scarcity, limited resources. We're always trying to economize and make things more efficient. And there's always, we look at unemployment rates and inflation, and there's a lot of things to be down about. But Ulf's method and his attitude, and he had this two-prong approach that you had to seize the day and live for the day and live for the moment. But at the same time, look into the future, make plans, make goals, and work towards fulfilling those goals, and be realistic at what you can accomplish. And so don't get overwhelmed by the negativity of today. That there are better things to come, and you can make them happen.
It seems, on the surface, it seems so easy, change your thoughts, make the right choices. And yet people have been chasing happiness for probably as long as we've walked the earth. And there have been so many books and self-help books and videos and shows and documentaries. What makes this approach let's say, different from, well, you could fill libraries, let's face it, with
Yeah.
self-help books. What makes this one so different, so effective in your mind?
This is a book that you can easily pick up and put down. This is a book that the message is quite simple. It gives you step-by-step ways that you can quickly approach happiness. So what makes this truly unique is you don't have to have a master's degree in psychology. You don't have to subscribe to a particular religion or have any kind of political orientation. This book has a mass appeal to just about anybody who will read it. And it's easy to remember. There's exercises in the book that you can do for yourself. Some people who've gotten this book, they will read a chapter or two. There's plenty of places in the book where you can make notes and you can make reflections about different ideas that you have. So it's a very user-friendly book. And again, it's a book that doesn't take a lot of your time. It's a book that you can read one chapter at a time. And it's the way the words are constructed and put together, it flows in a way that anybody should be able to read it with ease. And that was not easy to write that way.
So having the right kind of thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about thoughts. And you quote Napoleon Hill in the book, and he was famous for saying that thoughts are things. Just kind of unpack that for us. Thoughts are things. What does that mean, and what does that have to do with happiness?
Well, to some extent, we can control our thoughts, and from our thoughts, we make things, we do things. So a thought being a thing is a precursor to something that is physically something. And so it's a matter of, Ulf believe that very much, and you have the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And a lot of it was making sure that your subconscious and your conscious mind are in balance, that they're in communication with each other, and that through your subconscious mind, you can accomplish many, many things. And so your actual thoughts, many of it, if you use the repetitive technique that he suggests, you can have your subconscious mind continually feed your conscious mind to make these goals come true, make these goals happen. And it's to some extent a very mild form of self-hypnosis, I would say.
Interesting. In the book, there's this wonderful passage explaining why we start out as winners, even before we were born. If we hold on to that idea, no matter how low we get in life, we remember we were born winners. Just can you walk us through that?
Yeah, Ulf believed that a lot of unhappiness is attributed to people forgetting just how lucky they are to be alive, just how lucky they are to ever come to exist. The chances of us coming to exist by the biological, happenings are very, very remote. So in his mind, just being alive and is winning the lottery. We tend to take things for granted. We take life for granted. And so it's a return to appreciation. And one of the funny things about him, and I've known a lot of immigrants in the United States, and he absolutely loved Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving is not celebrated in Sweden. In fact, to the best of my knowledge, outside of the United States and Canada, nobody celebrates Thanksgiving. So, and in Canada, as far as I understand, Thanksgiving is at a different time, and it's maybe doesn't hold the same sense of importance as the United States. That's the impression I get. But Ulf he loved the concept of Thanksgiving and being grateful. And I mean, he made a big deal out of that holiday. And that's really a lot of what this idea of feeling lucky to be alive is: be grateful for what you have. Recognize uh, the good things in your life and realize that, you could have had a much worse situation. You might not have been born at all. So, that's really one of the starting points, the emphasis of gratitude.
I'm a list maker. In fact, just before we came on, I made a list. I have a daily to-do list, and it's usually as long as my arm. In fact, if I don't have a to-do list when I wake up in the morning, I get a little anxious. Um, and
Wow.
I make to-do lists because I can get overwhelmed, and that's not a good
Mhm.
feeling. So I need to
Mhm.
have it all laid out. But talk to me about the importance of making lists in terms of becoming an optimist and
Yeah.
becoming happy.
Well, the lists are people make lists for different reasons. In his particular case, the lists are to help you visualize your goals better by writing them down. And not just writing a list, but he in a description of some of the items on your list. So to help you visualize the process of trying to achieve those goals. Another reason for having the list is it helps you prioritize your goals. And I'm sure if you make lists all the time, things may come up in your head and you write them down first and you realize, well, obviously, if you've got 8 things on your list, not item number 6 might be the most important it didn't come out on paper or whatever, typing it up as the first one. So actually making a list can help you organize your thoughts. But for him, it was about making sure that not only you fulfill what your dreams and hopes are, but that it helps you realize the priority that, some things you want to do just aren't as important as other things. And making these lists really helps you discern, how to go about which activity over, another activity.
Right. I think maybe I'm not making the wrong kind of a list, but I need to make a second list. I mean, the to-do list is very kind of the workaday reality, right? It's just all about the present, but we also need to make a list of, where we want to be. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I remember recently on YouTube, and I can't remember the gentleman who said this, but one of the things he said that's the biggest dream killer is planning. Just he was saying, just do it. Because the moment you start planning, then you start, thinking about, well, um, I can't do it because of this, or I need to overcome this obstacle and this sort of thing. So the planning tends to get in the way of the actual, accomplishing of the dreams. What do you think about that?
This is where I'm going to stick with the Aristotelian golden mean answer that, moderation is good in all things. And so Ulf is operating from a premise that many readers don't do enough planning.
Mm.
But of course, there are people who do too much planning. And yeah, yeah. Look, I have 2 brothers who are engineers, and both of them love to plan out details to the point. In some cases, it can be ridiculous. But uh, and Ulf's if in Ulf's case, for people who have too much planning, that's where the prioritization comes into play. Sometimes you just have to do something now, and some things take longer than others, so you break them into different steps, different stages. So, like when you're writing a book, you may want to write a book chapter by chapter, or if you want to get in good physical shape, obviously it's not going to happen in one day, so you have to map out a calendar. But if you want to, I'll use physical fitness as an example. You could go into great details, but really, you just in order that simplification does help quite a bit. That's if you have the problem of, again, having too many plans. You have to moderate and hold back from that. But I would argue that a lot of people, particularly younger people, I've spent a long time hanging out with teenagers and people in their early 20s as a professor. So I constantly have been around people who are just starting out their lives, They're just learning how to plan and how to budget and all these other things. And so, but for people who are seasoned planners, the focus should be on prioritization and realizing that, sometimes getting 80% of the job done is good enough, or good enough for now. Accepting that maybe that last 10 or 20% of the job is going to carry what we call an opportunity cost in economics. That maybe the extra time required to finish off that is at the expense of doing other things. So it's important to try to find some kind of balance of energies, balance of time, and align that with your priorities, and be in touch with your priorities. A lot of people, I think, can get lost in the muck of the moment, that they, this is the most important thing. And we're not realizing that there are other things out there that really need to be done.
So if we're planning for goals,
Mm-hmm.
how do we maintain the positivity and the confidence in terms of fulfilling those goals? Are there I don't know, daily affirmations, or how is there a way of programming our subconscious mind to that end?
The programming is done through a routine, which he describes in the book, that is done when you first wake up and when you go to bed. So he believed the beginning of the day and the end of the day were the most important parts of the day. And at the beginning of the day, you immediately start focusing on what you want to accomplish. There's an element of affirmations in terms of making yourself feel better. But when you wake up, you should focus on the good things that you want to accomplish today. What is this day going to bring me? And he was very much a believer in the present, and that you can control how this day is going to go for you. You can choose what kind of attitude you want to have as you approach that day. And then at the end of the day is a time for assessment, reflection, and to be grateful and think back of all the good things that you've accomplished. And even if you've had bad things happen that day, try to turn that to the positive by thinking, well, what have I learned from this? Or don't get hung up so much on that, and remember to keep focused on the dream. He dreamed for years about immigrating to the United States, for example, and his friends in Sweden thought he was, they didn't believe him. And it took a lot of persistence and planning. But at the end of the day, when he immigrated, he did it. He executed the decision very, very quickly. And I'm going to say it took 15 years from the moment where he first wanted to come to America to where he actually did. And he was very, very happy that he did that. And he did it on his own terms. He didn't come over to the United States with a worker's permit. He came over to the United States without any kind of paperwork other than being a standard tourist, and immediately went about setting up businesses. And then later did the paperwork. I'm not sure if he would be able to get away with that process now in a post 9/11 world. But he was, he was very, very much an entrepreneur. He believed that entrepreneurism was this wonderful blend of creativity and individualism, and the market would reward you for making other people happy. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of what gave him happiness was the understanding that he helped other people become happy.
Optimism equals happiness. My conversation with Josiah Baker, PhD, continues right after this. Hi there. If you want to watch the rest of these episodes, please head over to my Rumble channel, Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. You can watch complete episodes there. New, complete, unedited episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Again, the Rumble channel is Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. In the meantime, I want to thank you for supporting this YouTube channel all of these years. However, the problem is I never know when I'm going to run afoul of the censors at YouTube. I never know when I'm going to end up in YouTube jail. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. And in fact, 2 more strikes and this YouTube channel will be taken down altogether. So help me fight big tech censorship, enjoy the complete unedited episodes, and join the rest of the Strange Planet community over on Rumble. Again, Richard Syrett's Strange Planet on rumble.com. See you over there. Welcome back. The Optimist, A Path to Personal Success and Happiness, written by the late Ulf Sandstrom, translated by Josiah Baker PhD. Josiah, that old saying, "Fake it until you make it." People say, even if you're miserable, if you're feeling kind of low, smile anyway. You're faking it, but it has this. I guess just using those particular muscles and releasing certain endorphins. If you fake it, fake being happy, you'll feel happy. Actually, what are your thoughts on that?
I think there is some truth to that, but Ulf's approach was more intellectualized in that it's not just based on a reaction; it's based on contemplation, based on evaluation, based on an understanding of happiness. So it's deeper than that. Having an optimistic perspective in life, yeah, of course it helps. But if you can back that up with, I'm happy because I've accomplished X, Y, and Z, and I am in the process of accomplishing A, B, and C, that gives a sense of substance, and that can carry you. Because emotions can come and emotions can go. We've all experienced these highs and lows, sometimes longer than others. In my life, I've generally been a very happy person. And as we talked about earlier in this conversation, there are certain events that got me down. I got down during lockdown during COVID, as a lot of people did, because we couldn't go out and socialize, and there's a lot of humans naturally need other people. We naturally love socializing, and we want to be accepted, and we want to be approved of and welcomed. And when you're isolated, it's hard to experience those things. So having said that, Ulf's approach, he would say you're not really faking it, that you're part of reality is what goes on in your head. Part of what you believe, how you perceive yourself, your sense of identity, your sense of purpose is a big part of your reality. Even if other people don't recognize it, your reality is experienced by yourself. It's an individual experience that can be shared, but a lot of who you are and what you are, he believed came from within.
Changing habits are the most difficult things to do. Is the most difficult thing perhaps to do. Ask anyone who's trying to quit smoking and so forth. But we also have mental habits, and some of those have been shaped by decades, or there's even a school of thought to suggest they might even be generational. Primordial, like fight and flight, that kind of thing, instinctual. So how do we shake off those old ingrained negative thought patterns that may have been, shaped by, I don't know, maybe you grew up in poverty, and
Yeah,
like abject poverty, and just so
yeah,
it's all about the
yeah.
daily grind of survival. How do we rewire that?
Well, I do think people were born with different proclivities. Some of this is genetic, as you mentioned, and some of it is environmental. And it's sort of like my approach to teaching or training in general. I'll use sports as an example since I'm in North Carolina. Michael Jordan was from North Carolina, and Michael Jordan's known as perhaps the best NBA basketball player that there ever has been. If you have a son that wants to be a great basketball player, you can send your son to summer camp. You can even have people like Michael Jordan train him to play basketball. But is he going to ever be as good as Michael Jordan? Probably not. But the training and the practice and the procedure that you undertake can make you a better basketball player. So if someone has a natural, or if they're born with a disposition that's more negative, if they've had a life that's made them justify having a negative attitude, the approach isn't, we can't expect to completely transform that person from extremely negative to extremely positive. It could happen. But what this process can do for almost everybody is make you less negative. We can improve you, just like sending somebody to basketball camp can make them a better basketball player. So we could make things less glum, make things less down, and find new reasons to appreciate what you have and to find happiness even in the little things. And Ulf writes about how many of the little things in life are very important. So, you may have had a bad morning, and I had something happen to me when I was living in DC. I had a really hard time getting into work one morning. There was traffic and accidents, and there were some other very stressful things. And I came in to the office. I was getting ready to give a lecture, and one of my colleagues, I think he was from Poland, and had spent most of his life growing up in a communist regime. This was a while ago. And I said, yeah, it's been a bad morning, a really bad morning. And he looked at me and said, well, the day's just begun. You've got most of the day ahead of you. You can still turn it around. So that's what I would tell people. If you're 34 years old, if you're 28 years old, even if you're 68 years old, it's not over yet. You have time, you have a future, you can make more of your future. You can make your life better. You can you can move forward and use the time that you have, because the present is what you have control over. You can't control the past. The future is yet to come. So you can plan for that. And, some people, and that's good. But there's this idea that, yeah, we can make ourselves happier. Maybe not, Mary Poppins happy or something, but even for people who are generally happy, they have their down points. So when you're feeling low, a book like The Optimist, you can pick it up and revisit the techniques, and it can remind you of, how to bring back a little happiness in your life.
The book identifies 8 magic values to deepen our appreciation, give us a vision and a purpose for life. Let's walk through these 8 magic values.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, these are tied in with the slogan, making slogans. So a slogan related to like a mantra. It's a short set of words that you repeat to yourself. And a lot of what he called magic is because he thought it would have a magical effect and on somebody's life. So pulling up the list here, I like my own list, but so one of the ways that you approach making these magic words happen is you set up this goal, and then you repeat the goals to yourself, and then you create ideas based on the goal, and then you take action. And then after you take action, then you have the results, and then you can reevaluate. But okay, so a lot of the words are based on your body, your mind, your work, and your money. And so with the body, you have your physical health and how you think you can improve your physical health. And that's a constant throughout life. Your health changes, and so it's important to be aware of how to maintain your health, your body, your physical health. Your mind, of course, would be your mental health. And then you have your work. And work, he liked to divide between a perspective of labor, the quality of work you did for that day or how much you're going to work for that day. And then at the same time, and again, this is a two-pronged approach, your career, your path. So you're working for something today, but what you're doing today is contributing to what you're going to be eventually going to accomplish with your work. So, and then of course, money. And this was income and wealth. Originally, all focused more on income, but there is a big difference between income and wealth. Wealth is how much money you actually have, and income is the rate that you're earning the money. And as an economist, 3/4 or more high income people have very little wealth. That's the stats that we look at. A lot of people, they can earn a lot of money, but they don't know how to keep it. And so as I tell my students a lot of times, what's the point of making a lot of money if you don't know how to hold on to it?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, most people want wealth. Not everybody does, but wealth does give people a sense of security and, financial independence. For example, the idea that you don't have to go to work that day or to pay your rent. It's a beautiful concept. It's a liberating concept, and to me, that's one of the magical things about capitalism or a market-based system. Capitalism has its problems, but the promise that one day you will be rewarded. But getting back to one of the 8 magic words is gratitude, which we've talked about before, and not taking things for granted and looking back at the positive things in your life, the advantages that you may have been given, the people you have in your life. If your friends, your family, your colleagues, even. So gratitude is definitely one of those. Serve is another one. And I think this was one that played very much into the Scandinavian sense of people working together, cooperation, collaboration. So Ulf believed that when one works, you're not just serving your own interests, you're serving the interests of other people. So when you're making products or providing a service, obviously you're helping other people. They need you. So they may give you money, but you're serving them nonetheless. And so he believed that it's in line with philanthropy. When people donate their time and their money, it makes them feel good. Gift giving, when people give gifts to other people, it makes them feel good. And so a lot of that the magic word of serve fits in with that, helping helping others, because we all need help. I mean, if you think about the biology of humanity, newborn babies are completely helpless. No newborn baby would survive on its own. They rely on we all relied on somebody to take care of us for the first several years of our lives, but especially the first year of our life. So that's this remembering that you need other people, but other people need you. And you may not feel like you're that important. You may not realize how much other people need you, and how much your colleagues need you, how much family members, even family members you may disagree with, they need you in ways you may not realize. Another magic word is think or reflect. And in the book, and one of the stories in the book, the two characters, there are two novellas in the book based off of two characters, Woody and Carl.
Yes.
And they travel and they're in Berlin. And when they're in Berlin on their trip, they focus on the magic word think. And again, use the word reflection and consider what you've accomplished, consider where you are, and have, again, some kind of sense of appreciation of how you got there and where you're going to go. Another magic word is prioritize, which, figuring out what is a higher priority. It's funny because as an economist, a lot of the times we'll read over why household break up. And people often say finances are number one reason why people divorce. But when I really dig into the data, it's not usually income is the problem or cost is the problem. It's priorities are the problem. You have two people with two different sets of priorities and how they want to spend their money. And so you can prioritize how you spend your money. You can prioritize how you spend your time and prioritize how you spend your energy. And so, and some people are out of touch with that. They don't align what they really value and make it a priority. They forget about it. So we've got a couple more words here. Another word is repeat, and that's, of course, is repeat the slogans, repeat the happy, positive thoughts, repeat thoughts attached to accomplishing things, and that's. There's reasons why, for example, for centuries, the Catholic Church has used rote memorization in their education programs. It works. Repetition does work. If you're a musician, the key thing to being a successful musician is practice. You got to play the same song over and over and over and over again. So there is definitely something towards repetition and repeat. And you got two more here, and the next one is goals, and then there's different kinds of goals you want to set, but goals gives one's focus on how they want to go through their day, and goal setting is very important. And for somebody who likes to make lists like you do, Richard, I don't think that's necessarily a problem. But some people who don't make lists, their goals are very vague. But let's say you do make lists here and there, goals with prioritization, you can figure out, okay, again, you got 10, 11 things you want to do today. Well, which ones do you have to do? Which ones do you really want to do? And some goals, if you revisit them, maybe they're not as important as you thought they were. People can change their mind. So, sometimes people make too big of a deal of a goal that may not be all that important. I mean, do you really have to wash your car today, for example?
Right.
Yeah. And the last word here is attitude. of course. And
that's everything.
That's everything. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Josiah, we'll take another time out. Come back, a few minutes left with Josiah Baker as we talk about the Optimist. Stay with us. Hi there. If you want to watch the rest of these episodes, please head over to my Rumble channel, Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. You can watch complete episodes there. New, complete, unedited episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Again, the Rumble channel is Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. In the meantime, I want to thank you for supporting this YouTube channel all of these years. However, the problem is I never know when I'm going to run afoul of the censors at YouTube. I never know when I'm going to end up in YouTube jail. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. And in fact, 2 more strikes and this YouTube channel will be taken down altogether. So help me fight big tech censorship, enjoy the complete unedited episodes, and join the rest of the Strange Planet community over on Rumble. Again, Richard Syrett's Strange Planet on rumble.com. See you over there. And we're here with Josiah Baker, PhD. And he, along with Ulf Sandstrom, responsible for The Optimist, A Path to Personal Success and Happiness. You mentioned the 2 novellas in the book, and one of them is called The Happiest Man in the World. And you mentioned the 2 characters, Carl and Woody. And Carl is, he works in a cafe. Doesn't have a lot of money. But it actually, let me back up. It starts out with this fantastical story of this eagle dropping this gold coin and into his hand. Just talk to me about the sort of, it sounds like a bit of a parable, or what is the meaning behind that?
It's a good question. I think it has to do with the fact that the origins of life, the origins of one's mission, just like the beginning of the story with Carl, there's something magical about it. That our lives didn't begin by in a factory. We somehow just appeared here, just like somehow the eagle just appears. And the eagle gives Carl this coin. And in a way, when we develop a sense of purpose, our purpose in life somehow is just often spontaneously comes to us. And there's an element of a metaphysical element to it, and you find yourself, and you're here, and it's hard to explain why we're here. Religions have tried many different ways, but it's so Carl gets this mission and he then pursues it. And in the first story, he initially obtains a lot of success on his own, but then he finds out that he doesn't have complete success and that he's missing pieces of that, particularly not having a lot of money and wanting to have more money so that he can support his family better and have a bigger family, I suppose. So this is where, Woody enters his life, and Woody has a lot of money, but Woody is lacking in many other areas in his life where Carl is not. So the 2 of them end up helping each other. And that's really what The Happiest American is about. And is that You have one man who seems to have it all, except he doesn't have money, and you have the other man who has a whole bunch of money and seems to have nothing else in his life. So, and the underlying message there is related to the idea that we need each other. We need to help ourselves, but by helping other people, we end up helping ourselves.
Right. I guess that gold coin really embodies everything that's in the book, and talking about I think the individual values and our relationship values. And Woody's an interesting character because, as you say, he has all the money in the world, but he's just a totally miserable human being. I mean, he's drunk and he's exhausted, and he has no solid relationships. Ex-wives, and I don't know if he has children. Oh, he has a child, but he only writes to him when he wants money. And then you have Carl, who focuses on everything, as you say, but the money. But he really develops these relationships. He goes into this coffee shop and he does his level best just to make sure everyone who comes in feels welcome, and the coffee shop becomes this enormous success. It's like Carl's helping everyone else make money but himself.
That's right.
And Woody obviously wants what Carl has, and Carl wants what Woody has. But that old saying, money can't buy you happiness, but it can't buy you happiness, but it can certainly remove a lot of the stress and anxiety in life, which I would think would make it easier to pursue happiness, because nothing can grind you down like inescapable abject poverty.
Or financial stress when people were descending into bankruptcy. And I don't know the Canadian stats, but I know in the United States, anywhere between 500,000 to 1 million bankruptcy cases are heard every year. And most people, if they think hard enough in the United States, they know somebody who's gone bankrupt. So you have people that they may not be poor, but they may be struggling with all kinds of financial problems, especially when you have bill collectors and phone calls and letters, and you just don't know what to do. And maybe people get over their head. They buy a house they can't afford, or they buy a car they can't afford. They get laid off. They don't know what to do because their income is now gone, or they get another job but it doesn't pay as much as the other job. And life throws these different curveballs at people, and a book like this can help somebody if you've been laid off, if you're experiencing severe financial problems. This is a way to make you think about finding gratitude, outlining your priorities, mapping out a plan to improve your situation. And that's really, in Carl's case in the story, he got very frustrated. And in the earlier version of the book, the frustration part was even longer. We actually cut that down a little bit. But he was very frustrated because a lot of things were right with his life, but he just didn't have any money. And I think, as you said, money does make things a little easier. And an economist I used to know said money can solve 80% of the world's problems, but not 100%, obviously. But a lot of what money does is that it gives us choices, and it gives us opportunity. And in some cases, people really, really do have if only X amount of money, then I could solve this. But Ulf's approach is, by using his method, ideally you wouldn't end up with these problems, because through prioritization, constant focus, and applying yourself every day, you can overcome a lot of this. In Carl's case, he ends up working for Woody. He ends up doing a lot of work for Woody. He does better. And eventually, of course, he does get what he wanted. And in Woody's case, he learns from Carl. Carl helps him discover ways to improve his life, especially in dealing with other people. And I think some people, very successful professional people, can get hung up on their career and their work, and they can neglect or forget about other people in their life. And then, that that can bring them down, and they may not even be aware of it. There are a lot of very successful people out there that are secretly or privately miserable, but a lot of the misery is attributed to this sense of isolation that they have, because they're not nurturing relationships with others.
Right. You become so focused. If you're so driven that you're going to, have financial independence, and you're going to be, people like that tend to be so focused and driven that it's never enough. They're so goal oriented. Once they get to a certain level, they're immediately looking at the next plateau, and then the next and the next. So it's never enough. There's never enough money. You can never make enough money. You can never have enough property. You can have, and then that just, well, the money can be, in some cases, the root of all evil, right? Because you worship it. It just becomes your be all and your end all. Having known Ulf Sandstrom, did he embody everything that was in the book? Was he perhaps the happiest person you ever knew?
I think so. And I don't just say that as a reaction. I say that with a great amount of reflection. I knew Ulf for 17 years, almost 18 years. Spent a lot of time with him. Saw him in other countries, not just in Florida, and knew a lot of people who knew him longer than I did. And by all accounts, he was always a very happy person. Sometimes he was so happy he would he would wear himself out, because he worked very long hours at his goals, but no, I never saw him sad. And that was one of the most remarkable things about him. He had this real zest for life. He loved life. And it was really quite tragic the way he died, because he was hit by a drunk driver. And that's what happened. And in a very indirect way, it might have been even attributed to COVID, because the person who hit him normally would have been working, but they weren't working. And that person was very intoxicated. And he killed him. He was on his way. Yeah, he was actually on his way to visit some friends, and when it happened. But yeah, getting back to his personality, I mean, he did practice what he preached. He really did, and he did it, as far as I can tell, going back to at least as early as the time when he was finishing law school in Sweden. So it wasn't like he was a miserable person who became happy for the last 20 years of his life. As far as I can discern, he was happy for at least 40 years of his life.
Well, he's gone, but he has left a legacy with your help. The Optimist, a path to personal success and happiness, a blueprint that he's left for anyone to become an optimist and ultimately to achieve happiness. Josiah Baker, thank you so much for this. Great meeting you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate this, Richard.
Hi there. If you want to watch the rest of these episodes, please head over to my Rumble channel, Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. You can watch complete episodes there. New, complete, unedited episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Again, the Rumble channel is Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. In the meantime, I want to thank you for supporting this YouTube channel all of these years. However, the problem is I never know when I'm going to run afoul of the censors at YouTube. I never know when I'm going to end up in YouTube jail. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. And in fact, 2 more strikes and this YouTube channel will be taken down altogether. So help me fight big tech censorship. Enjoy the complete unedited episodes and join the rest of the Strange Planet community over on Rumble. Again, Richard Syrett's Strange Planet on rumble.com. See you over there. Hello, friends, and welcome once again to Strange Planet, and it is indeed a strange planet, more strange than we can possibly conceive of. And if you'd like to get deeper into Strange Planet, you know the drill. Just click on the link in the episode notes, strangeplanet.supportingcast.fm, and you can become a premium subscriber. There are 3 premium subscription tiers, if you will, to choose from. Choose the one that's right for you. You gain access to commercial-free listening, bonus episodes that are produced exclusively for premium subscribers. You also get a subscription to my monthly newsletter, Inner Sanctum, strangeplanet.supportingcast.fm. The link's right in the episode description. All right, on today's installment of Strange Planet, part 2 of an ongoing series on frequency technology, sacred geometry, and healing, utilizing modern physics with ancient knowledge. We're going to talk about our present situation. In the previous episode, Brent Knudsen was here. We looked at our past and what the ancients understood about some pretty important symbols, namely the star tetrahedron and the flower of life symbols, which are really divine diagrams, as we discovered, connecting us to a higher power, and both sort of revealing the blueprint for creation as 2-dimensional representatives of the atom. Imagine the ancients understood about the atom, the foundational structure of all matter in the universe. And a great delight to bring back to the program for part 2, Brent Knudsen, a self-made entrepreneur who learned in the 1990s that mathematical algorithms, quantum physics, and frequencies were going to shape the future. He went on to forge one of the largest Canadian debit and credit card processing platforms known as Tangerine Concepts. His company became a tremendous success, was eventually sold to Goldman Sachs in 2009. He was then able to devote his time and energy to pursue his true passion for unlocking the power of sacred geometry and natural quantum field frequency healing. His technologies have now been in use within the wellness industry for years with amazing results and people benefiting from pain reduction, improved injury recovery, anti-aging properties, and improved health. He is passionate about frequency and quantum field technologies and excited to bring these technologies to the world at large. He understands today's environmental problems and is the founder and CEO of 4 Hour Bees, Inc., a global initiative. Brent, welcome back. How are you?
It's really good. It's really good to be back with you. It was so enjoyable that first meeting with you, and I couldn't be happier than to be back with you.
Jake Cunningham is a visionary in wellness and environmental innovation. He's carrying on his parents' pioneering legacy in the health and wellness industry as the founder and CEO of White Dove Global. He revolutionizes health technology with quantum biofeedback systems. Simultaneously, he champions bee conservation as the co-founder and COO of 4 Hour Bees, Inc., employing groundbreaking magnetic field technology Raised in Boulder, Colorado, Jake's journey was shaped by his family's passion for organic living, evident in their organic catering business. This upbringing instilled in him a deep-rooted belief in the transformative power of positive thinking, a mantra he adopted during his college years. You are what you think. After college, with a strong background in business and communications, Jake excelled in sales, focusing on biofeedback technology. He emphasized building relationships over mere transactions, a strategy that became central to his success. In 2012, Jake launched White Dove Global, aiming to transform the health and wellness technology sector. Meanwhile, his endeavor with 4R Bees Inc. addresses the critical issue of bee survival through pure wave technology, a boon for bees and our ecosystems. Additionally, 4R Bees enhances honey quality using their proprietary chrysalis energy technology. Jake Cunningham, welcome to Strange Planet. How are you?
Hi, Richard and Brent. It's a privilege to be here. I'm excited to explore and dive into this conversation deeper, and I'm looking forward to tapping in to the wisdom here today.
And I'm not going to throw these questions out to any or to either of you in particular. Just whoever wants to, grab the bull by the horns or pick your metaphor, pick up the ball and run with it. So Jake and Brent, as I mentioned in my introduction, in the first installment of this ongoing series, we talked about what our ancient ancestors understood about the blueprint of life, the flower of life, the star tetrahedron. We talked about how these symbols are 2D representatives of the atom, and of course, every cell in our body contains about 100 trillion atoms, and each of us, we have about 100 trillion cells, and this produces an incredible amount of energy, a torus field. The Earth has a torus field. The two interact. It's essential for cellular health and our not only our physical, but our mental, emotional well-being. So today we're going to talk about where we're at now. That was the past. Where we are now, obviously, we're not in a great place in the modern world. The modern world is responsible. Modern living is responsible for so many of the things that ail us today. Let's kind of dive into that and talk about how we got to where we are today in terms of our health. Whoever wants to kick it off, please go ahead.
Go ahead, Jake.
Oh, well, I know, Brent, you and I, we discuss this often, and what's merged us over the past decade plus has been this abandonment of some of the ancient principles that you covered in the first episode, and us moving away from nature. And the distractions of the modern era, present day stressors are abundant. And the list goes on, from the foods we're eating to the psychological and emotional attack that's constant in our lives from technology. Now, I'm not against technology. I don't feel technology is only dark or light, but the constant distraction in our lives, this constant connection, which is also a pro, can also separate us and disconnect us. And it all leads back to then the physiological effects based really on that stress response and being in that fight or flight response all the time, not being able to reset and relax. We heal, Richard, when we are at rest. Mm-hmm. We repair when we are resting. We've heard it all. The listeners, you grow, you heal, you repair, you regenerate when you are sleeping.
That's right.
When you're resting. And this sacred principles that you covered with Brent is constantly not allowing us to reset and relax. And Brent, I'll pass the ball because there's a lot more going on right now beyond just the food, lifestyle, and distractions. I mean, the constant bombardment of the frequency, electromagnetic pollution that's surrounding us every single day. We're on Zoom, we're on computer, we're on every single day. We're connected to the phone. And the true effects of that, I feel, Richard, are not yet discovered. It hasn't been around for more than the 20 years, these modern technologies of the cell phone and this connectedness, the 5G, all the things that are around us. Yet, frequency medicine has been used, and frequency technologies have been used for over a century. And so it's quite fascinating to see every day the stressors, and we're complex beings as well. It's never one thing. And that's where some of modern medicine is failing people, not looking at the whole body, the whole concept of what's really going on with somebody. They're focusing on one part, and they have their list of things for that one part, the reduction. And we'll talk about that later when we get into where we are in the medical world. But overall, these distractions of modern day, present day stress, PDS, if you wish to call it, whatever you want to label it,
Right.
are starting to continuously affect that regeneration of healthy cells.
Yeah. Combined
Because
with
go ahead.
combined with some personal poor lifestyle choices that we tend to make, not all of us, but we tend to fall into those traps, which is, it's kind of this feedback loop, because when we're not feeling well, we make bad choices. You know, we go to those comfort foods, which are not necessarily healthy foods. Mentally we're drained, we're beaten down by modern day living. And so we retreat into our homes and we scroll, and then that feeds into, a further disintegration of our mental health. And so we eat the corn chips and we drink the soda pop, and everything just kind of feeds into that downward spiral, like we're spilling the drain.
No, it's true. There's a momentum factor big time when it comes to both, whether it's your journey and well-being. And again, I want to just be clear with everyone. This isn't about us preaching what's a perfect lifestyle or you're wrong for these things. No, it's the environmental factors that's surrounding us every single day. We are moving away from some of those ancient principles and the power of nature and the star tetrahedron, the flower of life, all the things we learned about in the first segment, which I highly encourage people to go back and listen to so you have context. This is this universal code for which helps us regain and ground us. And the resilience and the lack thereof is really built from when we can find the reset button and the pause and the regeneration. We heal when we rest. We heal when we relax. We heal. So think about that, in everything we do. And it's
well said on there,
out.
Jacob. I just want to pull back on some of what we were talking in that first. So just like in that first segment, Richard, that we were talking about the cells themselves and the disconnection with what feeds them on a natural or a natural way, which is what they respond to. And so what they respond to is those frequencies that we were talking about, the natural earth frequencies, and that ties into geometry, which is math, and that's everything. But now then we get into something else, which when we talk about health, we must get into the emotional. The emotional is huge, and never have we been technically more connected, but never have we been more disconnected and lonely. So what's happened is it's like what we're going to talk about in medical. It's a double-edged sword. Technology serves us well in many ways, and then doesn't serve us well as a detriment in other ways, right? And this is what we're learning, because wow, so amazing to be connected with phones and everything we can do and what we're doing in business. But then what that has caused us, in an emotional way, which is part of our nature, is at a cellular level has disconnected us. So that is another big part of health, and it's a big part of what's going on. So then we get back into then the medical place that we're in, and Jake and I can talk about that. But let's go back. Say about it was around the 1920s, and Jake, you correct me, that there was a split that was going on. There was a battle going on between Rife frequencies and the way that they would approach certain healths. They were doing all kinds of things. And then there was a battle between chemistry or pharmaceuticals as to how they were going to approach it. And what happened through the dominance of who was controlling that and who decided was a better financial model, the chemical won out. And the pharmaceuticals, again, double-edged sword, they serve a purpose of dealing with superficial, or they deal with symptomatic issues, and they do a pretty good job of that. But the root causes is not getting dealt with. And plus our bodies, our organs don't recognize it. That's why there's so many side effects. So everybody listening could know that anytime you're seeing any kind of commercials or anything with pharmaceuticals, there's all kinds of disclaimers, like huge, right?
Disclaimer
Now,
portion
we
is
take
almost
that
as
for
long as the
granted,
commercial.
Yeah. Yeah, but let's step back. We take it for granted, but come on, right? What other things in this world could we have those kind of disclaimers and everything's all right, you know? So that tells a lot about what's going on. And I'm going to state right now that our emergency medical situations is essential and really good here. Like if you have physical breaks or you have things or emergencies and stuff, our medical system is excellent, right? What we're really talking about here is long-term health and overall health. And that's where there's a disconnection from that, right?
Right.
So I
Yeah,
just wanted to make that clear that
we have a sick care. We have a sick care system, not a healthcare system.
That's right.
We wait
That's right.
until we need a dramatic intervention, whether it's surgery or, in the case of cancer, radiation, chemotherapy, pharmaceuticals. But in terms of just maintaining kind of a healthy baseline, we don't have that sort of universal system in place. It's up to us, and for the reasons that we sort of outlined earlier, we don't maintain that. But our bodies used to be capable of healing themselves. That's the thing, right? When we were in harmony with nature, our bodies are incredible creation, just incredible machine that can heal itself.
Oh, that's well said. Really well said, because that is the truth. Our bodies are miracles. They know how to fix themselves. They are a creation of miracle. But what we have is what Jake was talking about. We have so much distraction or interference with that is probably the better word. Right. So what we really are is we're in a world of interference, and it's not too hard to see that. So what our bodies are fighting is they need to be left alone. So they're not left alone. They're constantly bombarded by something, and we could name all the different things, whether it's negative frequency 5G, or whether it's the food, whether it's the environment we're living in, congestion, you name it, right? So what basically then is the body is going like we can help, but we got to be left alone. We got to get a break from this, and we have to be able to we have to have other sources to support us. So this is really what we're talking about, and this is what will get us back into less reliance. Plus, we've been educated to trust doctors, like without any question, like just because. And we all have to understand that they're trained in a certain way. They go into certain things. They're in a certain program, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we need to understand that so that we can then, we can work with both sides with it. So, that's basically where we're at right now.
Right. You talked about the interference with our natural healing abilities. And in the previous episode, we talked about the torus field that the human body creates. You've got, again, 1 trillion atoms in every cell, and every body has 1 trillion cells. So and they're all, they're creating energy frequencies, and this creates, when we look outside, I flew over Iceland a couple of months ago, and I saw for the first time in all its glory the northern lights, the aurora borealis. That's the Earth's torus field. We have a torus field.
Right.
The two intermingle. That's for optimal health. Our cellular health is dependent on that interaction between our field and the Earth's field. And that's where the interference comes in, right? The 5G, the microwaves, the cell towers, all of that is dirty electricity from power lines. All of that is causing the interference between the Earth's natural field and our natural field.
Mm-hmm. And part of we go back to the quantum physics concept and the quantum physics concept versus the Newtonian, which is the reductionistic, mechanistic, that we are a body of parts. And modern medicine is expert at dividing, finding the parts, fixing that part. Yet we're more complex than that. We're complex beings. And if we look at the atom, and you talked about the two-dimensional shape of the star tetrahedron being a representation of the three-dimensional atom, which makes up the cells, which makes up the molecules, which makes up cells, which makes up tissue, which makes up the body, makes up actually every matter, everything that's in front of us, the computer, the screen you're watching right now, audience, on your phone or on your computer. Everything is made up of atoms. Atoms are 99.99999 space. So what we are is a quantic field. And all these, I love what you said, Brett. They're more like not distractions, but they're interference. It's just causing chaos, and our bodies aren't able to do what they were naturally designed to do. And so, but what's really fascinating is that this whole energy and frequency medicine it's been around. It's been used right now. And you talked about something very interesting, Brent, the story of conventional and allopathic medicine. And there's a whole story of the Rockefellers and controlling the American medical associations, which homeopathy got sucked in, and then they subscribed to the AMAs, all the American medical associations' new doctrine, which eventually didn't have them practice anymore. Homeopathy, by the way, everybody, if you're not familiar, is really just a very small component of a substance for which at a larger dosage would cause a symptom, helping retrain the body's stress response at a very subtle energetic level. Compounded. The X, you've heard this. You go to your natural grocer, the 10X, the 5X, the 30X. That's the amount of dilution by itself, to where, and this is why mainstream medicine, they call it quackery, because there's really, to a point, an energetic representation of that. Now, Samuel Hahnemann, fascinating story. He studied that a little dose of a toxin actually helped the symptom for which a larger dose caused, whether it was viral, bacterial, fungal. And so really homeopathy was a form of energetic medicine. And it was the most popular form in our country before this rollout of control. And we go back to the control factors, and we're not going into talking about the evil plan here, but the facts are the facts that the reductionistic model is where the money is, where they can control nature. Let's take Valium, for example. Valium, which is a popular drug to help calm and sedate someone who's under stress and anxiety, and was popular in World War II with all the wives and all that. It was synthesized from a valerian root. It was just the chemical component for which then they could patent, and they could control, and they could profit. This happens all the time. This is the model. And so back to the system, absolutely. I've had major traumas where I needed medical attention from a snowboarding accident, football, all these things that I've done. Modern medicine for acute trauma care is phenomenal. It's broken. Let's mend and fix, help sedate while you heal. But true well-being healthcare, it's a failed model. And so what's happening in today is, and this goes to this part, Brent and I, we always revisit this amazing story because frequency medicine has been used since Tesla started with the X-ray, measuring and frequency to see and analyze and see inside and evaluate the body. We have the CAT scan. We have the MRI.
Yeah, we've moved on from exploratory surgery to utilizing frequency and electromagnetic fields to diagnose instead of cutting. But we haven't taken it to the next step, which we'll get into in a moment, and that is going from using those methodologies to diagnose to actually treat. Brent Knudsen and Jake Cunningham are here back with more of our conversation right after this. Hi there. If you want to watch the rest of these episodes, please head over to my Rumble channel, Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. You can watch complete episodes there. New, complete, unedited episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Again, the Rumble channel is Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. In the meantime, I want to thank you for supporting this YouTube channel all of these years. However, the problem is I never know when I'm going to run afoul of the censors at YouTube. I never know when I'm going to end up in YouTube jail. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. And in fact, 2 more strikes and this YouTube channel will be taken down altogether. So help me fight big tech censorship, enjoy the complete unedited episodes, and join the rest of the Strange Planet community over on Rumble. Again, Richard Syrett's Strange Planet on rumble.com. See you over there. Welcome back. Jake Cunningham and Brent Knudsen are with us. 4ourbees.com is the website. The link is in the episode notes. 4ourbees.com. And we're talking about sacred geometry and frequency healing. And this is part 2 of an ongoing series. So we were talking about Newtonian physics and reductionism, which sees everything simply as matter, and that we are all just sort of, we can be reduced to matter. And to understand its component parts, you need to dissect everything. But then we have now, and this is something the ancients understood, and that is that we are, in fact, if you take the tiniest, most observable parts of our essence, we're energy. We're not physical matter. We're energy. So maybe Brent, you can pick up on that point and talk to us about what that means in terms of of who we are, what we are, and our health.
Well, exactly, Richard. I mean, you just said it, is that if we step back and see that we're really not physical beings, we really are energetic in every aspect, then that's probably the area we should look at. That's the area we should be paying attention to. So, as Jake had mentioned earlier, when we have physical things go wrong, we have an accident, or we're physically obstructed. Well, that calls for the Newtonian method of going and fixing us on a physical level. So that makes sense. But when we're starting to talk about our overall health, our health on an ongoing basis, where the cells are working properly, remember we were talking, the cells are like little batteries. Really, they're just little batteries. And if we keep them charged up properly, or they're treated right, the body fixes everything. It knows what to do. Virtually at high levels of that, you can't get cancer. We talked about that. So that's the place that we're talking about, because if we do that and we start to look at those kinds of things, you're going to have a situation where people don't need a whole lot of medical care. They're basically going to be able to be healing themselves, working functionally, and being able to properly look after themselves. And that really isn't that hard to do. And we're seeing, even from a financial standpoint, it's really where we have to go. In Canada, here, if we're talking to the American audience, but here in Canada, it's becoming an unobtainable or unrealistic way that we can continue to go on what we are financially with our medical. It's overwhelming, right? So we have to get off where we all are using medical to the way it is happening now, because it's not sustainable. So that is for sure. And in the States, it's different in the sense that they're paying for a lot of their medical, but still the same thing is going on, where it's every year. So we take a look at things like the Cancer Society or the Heart Society, whatever, that's been going on for 50 years. So when they started, I think in cancer, well, first of all, cancer at the turn of the century, at 1908, cancer was 8%. That's what cancer was, 8%. So this is what I wanted to tell your audience. So with everything else that was going on with human beings or whatever was happening, our cancer rate was 8%. Our cancer rate now is in the high 60s, if not low 70s, right? So something happened between 1908 and now. Now, a lot of that was technical, because the advent of electricity, all kinds of things came into play after that 1908. So we can't, whatever way we want to look at it, but it keeps going up. So even so we've got societies that are dealing, like Cancer Society and stuff, but it's not working.
No,
And same with the heart.
Nixon declared a war on cancer in I think it was 1973. Here we are, over 50 years later, and well, we may be making some inroads on treatment methods or early diagnosis, but I mean, it's like shoveling sand against the tide. I mean, the cancer rates just keep coming up. We can't keep up.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's well said, because just think of what you just said, is that it keeps going up and up, but we're getting really good at diagnosing, which is true. So it's like, there it is. Okay. Oh, yeah. Wow. We're getting really, really expert at diagnosing, right? So then we go back to let's just go at a cellular level. What cancer is, without any complication. What we do know is, if the cells are charged up, if the cells are healthy over a 40% to 50% rate, cancer is not in the equation. So that we do know. So that's what we got to do. We've got to deal with it at a cellular level. That's for cancer. That is definitely the case. It's all about those cells being very healthy and effective, because that's where cancer is. That is where it comes from, right? So those are the things. Now, however, they've got treatments for it. The chemical treatments for it deal in many, many ways, and people have heard all kinds of stories about what that is, and it seems to prolong people. Sometimes it prolongs life and stuff. But some of those treatments are horrendous, for what people have to go through. So it's not a great scene. But just a question as to, why is it so much? Why is it so much more today than it was before? That begs a question in itself. So, and that we're coming from saying is, that's where this change that we talk about, Richard, from being chemical to physics. Physics is where we need to go with our health. There's no question about it. So like when we all talked about microwaves and 5G and stuff, that works incredibly. Those frequencies work incredibly great for communication. No doubt about it. They're brilliant, but they don't work well for us. As simple as that. So let's make that clear. They work fabulous for what they're designed to do, which is communications, or or food preps or whatever they've been designed to do. But that doesn't mean in any way, shape, or form they've been designed any good for us, right? So that's basically what that's about. So
Talked about
you know,
the
I'll
Newtonian,
leave it.
sort of the Newtonian reductionist approach to, well, the example we had was cancer. And it's interesting, we haven't changed our. There have been obviously some considerable advancements in like targeting radiation or targeting chemotherapy and so forth. But in terms of like the overall approach to cancer, it seems to me it hasn't changed in 100 years. It's surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy. We've been doing this for 100 years, and the cancer rates continue to climb. And so, as you say, we need to make this leap sort of back to the future in many respects, from chemistry and Newtonian reductionism, materialism, if you will, to physics. And Jake, earlier we were talking about how they've gone in that direction in terms of diagnosing, instead of just exploratory surgery. Now we have magnetic resonance imaging and CAT scans. So they're sort of halfway there. They're using physics now to diagnose, but we have to make that next leap, which is from diagnosis to treatment using physics.
And we're here with methods and modalities that are using frequency medicine. One example is Raymond Royal Rife. Mm-hmm. Raymond Royal Rife and the Rife technologies took the Hertz frequencies, targeted it to a certain cell or pathogen, viral component, and neutralized it. What Raymond Royal Rife didn't do, unfortunately, was play the regulation game, and it was never properly registered, for which now it's never going to be in the system of medicine unless there's a huge turnaround. But you were talking, I'm going to take just a step back, though, because this ties into, with all this new technology that's there, and we're in this technology age, why is those numbers, Brent, like you said, higher now? And it's the target approach. It's the new reductionistic approach of going in, isolating, cutting out without focusing on the greater cause, but also understanding the cellular process of a cell needs to have that high vibration, that resilience. But what it has to do is be able to also detox. It has to be able to regenerate, rest, and allow nutrients to come in. That cycle: detox, rebuild, nutritionalize. And like we did, I don't know if it was covered in the first, I think you talked about how the body it replaces cells. We've heard all the analogy, in 7 years, you're a completely new person, right? In 7 years, give or take, every cell in your body has been replaced. So the key is and this puts a good context and perspective, how you treat your body, what you surround yourself with, the food, the relationship, the psychological input, all that matters for the regeneration of those cells and what you would be in that next chapter. And so the technology and the frequency medicine helps create an environment for which the body is able to do what it was designed to do. We have this amazing innate intelligence in our body to heal itself. And Richard, you mentioned, before in the podcast, we used to rely so much more on that. But what our society's done is we need answers now. We need a pill to fix it. We need a surgery to fix it now. Yesterday, I got to get back to work. I got to get back to this. And so what's hard is that our culture has created, and we talked about that momentum of, when you're feeling bad, you eat bad, which makes you feel worse, our culture has kind of created this own monster of demand to fix me now. And you go back to the commercial that I call the AMA and the alternative media, Marketing Association. How in the world are they? But this is where we're at. We're at where the demand is for something different, yet there's these true factors that are still influencing the decisions and the awareness and consciousness of people. So the listeners, this may be the first time you've opened your eyes to this. I doubt it. I would bet most of the listeners here on the Richard Surrett Show are aware of what we're talking about. Almost guaranteed. I'll put money on that you guys understand that there is a need for a different way. First step is raising your consciousness and awareness. But where a lot of people falter is having the resource or the access to do something about it. Where are these technologies to help us connect? And I want to just mention a few. So Rife Technology is one. Light therapy, blue, red, near-infrared light therapy, frequency medicine. It's used for 30 years for treating bilirubin. My son, Brett, I don't know if you know this, when Brady was born in 2018 here in Michigan, in late fall, not a lot of sun. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of bilirubin, jaundice when babies are born because they didn't get the natural light that stimulates the liver, that kickstarts and clears out the bilirubin. It kind of jumpstarts the liver. And the treatment for that, do your research, do your due diligence, listeners, go ahead, is blue light therapy. You've seen the blue light therapy beds in the hospitals. Phenomenal. You know what we were able to do? We were able to use our blue light therapy at home, which is a little unit that had the exact same frequency waveform length as the one in the hospital to treat. Why doesn't every newborn in the world have access to that? You can get those lights for $100 or less.
I guess,
so with frequency medicine is here through these different therapies, but it's not accessible like it should be.
Well, that's I guess that's kind of the next point, which is kind of the last point before we leave off with part 2 in this ongoing series, and that is that, as you point out, there is this emergence of change. It's on the horizon. Well, it's not even on the horizon. It's here now, if we want it. This is the good news. There is this positive shift that's underway, and that's what we're going to be talking about in the next episode. Where we're at right now, what we can do about it, and how we now we're in the midst of this revolution, this move from the old paradigm, the Newtonian physics, the reductionism, the materialism, into health, quantum physics, an understanding of quantum physics in restoring health and allowing our bodies to heal themselves. Brent, do you just want to maybe give us a tease about where we're heading in our next episode vis-a-vis quantum?
No, I'd love to. Love to. Perfect segue. So we've just covered, in basics where we're at now, and as Jake said very clearly, most people know this. It's they're aware of it. We were just sort of covering it. But now, what do we do about it? Where are we going? So the next one, which is really exciting, is how we'll use these new technologies to change the world. And we're going to get into next things, the things that we're doing that are changing things at a frequency level and putting it into balance. So that's what's so exciting about the next episode we'll do, is we're going to get into specifically what we're doing. So we won't be conceptual, and we won't be talking about, hey, what this is and what that is. We'll start to talk about what we're actually doing and what people then can tap into and where they can go. And so it's an exciting new world, because as you said, we are in the midst of it. It's moving in a direction, and there's reasons it's slowed for and why it's taking a little longer, but we're doing it anyway. So the next show will be about what we're doing as a company and as a group that is actually changing the dynamics of what's going on in the world. So we're really excited about that.
Right. So sort of taking what we talked about in the first episode, what the ancients knew, what they understood about the blueprint for creation, the building blocks
Yeah.
of life and of good health and a holistic view that they had, and combining that ancient wisdom with modern physics, and taking us into the next paradigm of good health and well-being.
Well said. And we're actually going to show you at an insect, at an animal, at a human level, as to how effective it is and what it's doing and what changes it's making and how effective it can be. So that's what we'll be really excited to show everybody, because we're excited. I mean, these results are coming in now all over the place. So we just had to get out there and do it. Use the technologies in areas that is now doing something very phenomenal. So we look forward to it.
I look forward to talking about connecting why the bees. Why are the bees significant in exactly what we're talking about here, and connecting those dots, because the bees don't lie.
Indeed. And we'll just give you a little tease. It's technology you can hold in the palm of your hand. All right. Jim Cunningham and Brent Knudsen, thank you so much. Until next time.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Hi there. If you want to watch the rest of these episodes, please head over to my Rumble channel, Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. You can watch complete episodes there. New, complete, unedited episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Again, the Rumble channel is Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. In the meantime, I want to thank you for supporting this YouTube channel all of these years. However, the problem is I never know when I'm going to run afoul of the censors at YouTube. I never know when I'm going to end up in YouTube jail. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. And in fact, 2 more strikes and this YouTube channel will be taken down altogether. So help me fight big tech censorship, enjoy the complete unedited episodes, and join the rest of the Strange Planet community over on Rumble. Again, Richard Syrett's Strange Planet on rumble.com. See you over there.